evening from New Delhi.
Hello.
And good morning from London. Today, I, as Amit Gupta, founder and editor-in-chief of Stir, which has two verticals, stirworld.com and stirpat.com, is proud to have with me in the conversation Sam Pratt and Valerio Capo. Both Sam and Valerio have had an amazing journey from the world of corporate banking, investment, finance, to the mad world of creative community. And that's where I came from. As a founder of Stir, much before I started Stir, I started a company called Vis-a-Vis, which was the first architecture and design gallery in India. When we got to know each other, we thought it'll be great for all of you as our readers and as our viewers to listen to this remarkable journey three of us have had. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening to who we three mad people are.
It's a pleasure. Yes, thanks for having us on.
So I'm Valerio Capo, co-own FUMI with...
together with myself, Sam Pratt.
Yes. We do come from different backgrounds, like you were saying. I was a marketing consultant back in the days, and I was working mainly in the automotive sector, working for like luxury cars. So that's what was my main role. And Sam?
Well, I was in the banking for 20, 25 years, and rather boring. So yes, but it was a big part of my life for a very long time. And
we've been partners for a very long time before we decided that we wanted to do something different with our lives, and that we really had the urge to create something that it was our little world. And we kind of started playing with the idea of a design gallery because we love design for one reason or another. We started actually buying, collecting for our apartments. So we kind of got exposed to the gallery world pretty quickly by buying things and in various cities around Europe and the States. So yeah, we kind of became almost natural for us that we had to open a design gallery at some point. I don't know how naturally this came, but it did come quite naturally. In 2008, we opened FUMI.
Like Valerio, I was also in marketing. I was in actually advertising agency. I used to work for JWT at McCann, and I worked there for 7 years. And during the early stage of my growing up, the bachelor days, the debauched bachelor life, which we were all leading, I used to share my apartment with a bunch of NID, which is the National Institute of Design. It's a design school in India. So a few NID graduates were my roommates, my homemates. So we have four of us staying together, two advertising professionals and two designers from National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. But I used to hear a constant crib from these design professionals and friends of mine that says, there's so many art galleries which promote painters and sculptors, and fashion design as a discipline comes on a runway very fast because it has a glamour push attached to it. But where do we go? Where do furniture designer or graphic designer or textile designer or a product designer, how and architects, how do we get a platform to self-express for our own expression? And that triggered the idea of why don't, and there was always a little, despite the fact I don't come from a business background family, my dad is a retired civil engineer, the idea came as, why don't we start the first design and architecture gallery in India, where we can start promoting Indian talent? So while I was in JWT, I was talking to a few friends of mine who are art directors and copywriters, and I was briefing them, and we were thinking, what do we call this gallery? And while I was briefing them, I was talking to them, and it says it is going to be about vis-a-vis design, vis-a-vis architecture, vis-a-vis space, vis-a-vis emotion, vis-a-vis love, vis-a-vis you and me, vis-a-vis creativity. And I was using the term vis-a-vis very often in my brief to art director and to the copywriter. He says, hey, that's where the name is. So that's how vis-a-vis name came up, and it says, why don't we call your gallery vis-a-vis? And that's how vis-a-vis became the first architecture and design gallery in India.
Yeah, wow, it's a very nice story.
Yeah, because ours actually started off showing, the old modern masters like Joe Ponti and these kind of people was our first show.
Yeah.
And then Valerio and I quickly thought, we like, of course, the famous, the important. However, we need to show and work with the future. Why don't the gallery should be, there are a lot of other galleries out there showing all the masters. Why don't we do something new and introduce the future, the now, and so that's how we then met people, like,
graduation shows, like the RCA, Eindhoven, Cal, we started going to various shows, and we met the likes of Max Lamb, Glitero, Rowan Mersch right at the beginning. So we were very lucky.
Yes, 2008 I think was our first kind of outing, our first showing as a gallery, so that was basically we hedged our bets a bit because I stayed in banking and Valerio left his job. So he was at the gallery full time.
We really had no idea of what we were doing, and we learned year by year.
We had this space, and which was in Shoreditch in the East End, which was very hip and very trendy, and very close to the financial district. Because initially, of course, we thought all the bankers, as they were walking past, they would buy from us in the gallery and stuff. But of course, they had no idea, no interest. And then in 2008, with the crash, we saw them all going home with all their cardboard boxes having been made redundant. So we're like, definitely, this is not, we don't want to be.
We need to rethink about what we're doing. We went to Portocervo in 2009. Which was great for us. Portocervo is a lovely seaside resort in Sardinia, and it's the home of the rich and famous for the summer season. So you have these massive mega yachts, and we were there for 9 years. Rossana Orlandi was in the same promenade, and she invited us to be part of it because she was linked with this project, and we're very grateful to Rosanna to have invited us there because it was a fantastic experience for us.
Like, you started FUMI with the design collection, and the revenue model must have been based on how design and art collectors would come and buy quality design products and design limited edition pieces from Gio Ponti or other designers you showcase. While in India, there was no culture of buying design way back in 2007. And people had started investing in art or buying art, but there were no takers for design. So we had to twist and turn our revenue model, where we started doing curated shows which could have been sponsored by manufacturers, watch manufacturers or car manufacturers who want to talk to creative community, and one of the brand values are to support creative communities.
It's quite amazing that you did this even 10 years before we started FUMI, and in a different environment like New Delhi. So I think it's really quite amazing what you accomplished.
You know, in 1999, 31st of December, which was a Millennium Eve, British Council invited us to do a show. So with a Glasgow-based agency, UZ Event, he's a dear friend, Neil Butler, and now he's busy surfing in Colombo. We curated a show called Wrap the World. where one single piece of artwork wrapped the entire globe in 1.5 hours. You'll be surprised how.
Oh, we'd love to see, yeah.
It was with fax machine. So we identified 2 artists in Glasgow, 2 in Johannesburg, 2 in New Delhi, 2 in Sydney, 2 in New York, Porto, and an artwork started leaving a fax machine. An artist started working on it, and they started transmitting from the second fax machine. Second fax machine was connected to a Johannesburg gallery. So artists in Johannesburg started receiving the fax, and they started working on the same piece of artwork, adding their layer to it.
Yeah.
They sent it to New Delhi. We created a huge set here in India at Craft Museum, and we got artists here, and the Indian artists started working on the same fax paper. We sent it to Sydney. Sydney sent it to New York. New York sent it to Porto. Porto sent it back to Glasgow. So while one machine was still transmitting, because a fax paper used to be of 30 meter, 30 meter roll, the thermal paper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But while the fax was leaving, one machine was leaving Glasgow, the second machine started receiving in Glasgow, and 2 kids joined hand. And we got very extensively. BBC did live coverage. A lot of local media from Star and Indie TV did a lot of coverage, and a newspaper wrote about. We got a headline in a newspaper, on a very big newspaper in Times of India called "Art That Symbolizes Connectivity on the Eve of Millennium."
It's important, however big you are, which is why we're quite keen on not being a big monolith kind of gallery. Is that to be you can be flexible, you can be more creative, you can adjust with things, and I think that that's the fun really, because for Valerio and myself, we want this to be a fun experience, and always new surprises, doing new things, challenges. So that's and it's always been like that.
It's fun, but it's a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
And, I always remember a friend who was completely out of the art world asking me one day, "Valerio, what is it exactly that you do when you go to work? I mean, you come in at 11 o'clock with your latte from the coffee shop, and then how do you fill your time? It must be so boring." And actually, I was looking at him like, you have no idea how incredibly hectic and full of excitements and issues. We live our lives. So, but at the same time, we enjoy ourselves. So this is our first gallery in Tabernacle Street in Shoreditch. We opened there in 2008, and the location is very, very near the financial district. So we were there for 4 years.
All our friends helped us to paint and redecorate the space.
We had painting parties with our friends.
Hi.
And this is a Max Lamb desk with a red chair, which was the very first pieces that we had at the gallery. And then we moved in 2012. We decided that it was time for us to make a jump, really, because we felt a little bit stuck in this location, which was really nice, but then at the same time it proved to be very difficult for us to show to the right people, because the right people were not in Shoreditch. We have a really lovely place in Shoreditch. Let's move to the place, the gallery in our apartment. Is going to be a bit of a sacrifice, but at the same time that released some cash, which we were able to invest in art fairs
and also it was quite important because that square, the white cube, used to be on the other side of the square opposite. So people already, our collectors already knew the square, so it was kind of a destination. It was not a kind of strange place. People knew of the square.
Being in London, the UK market is very traditional. still, as well as other markets like the Italian market, for example. So it's taken quite a while, to educate, like Sam was saying, clients, to make them feel more comfortable and to be more appreciative of the crazy mad things that we propose sometimes.
But on your side, was it as difficult, complicated as we're saying, for the, because in a way, I imagine the Indian market is also quite conservative, particularly back then. How did you also, introduce the work, these crazy ideas you guys had?
It was as challenging because moment you attach a utility or functionality to a piece of art, there was a mindset that, oh, that's no more art, it's function. So to bridge that to blur that line in their mind, that there is very little difference between art and design, anything which is creativity and has an expression can be defined as art. It was challenging, still challenging, to be honest with you. We don't have design collectors in India as much as we have art collectors. But then it all actually started, to be honest with you. You mentioned Rosanna Orlandi and the Loafer. Italy, to start with, was much more mature, and they were much more mature before even UK, and India is much below in the line. So when we did a show in India when Castiglione died, when Achille Castiglione died, we actually did a retrospective on Castiglione. And when we called Andrea Branzi to India for his show, for his talk. We called Piero Lissoni. So when things like these started happening, that's when Indian art collector and Indian design savvy audience started realizing merit in even acquiring a design piece as an art piece.
It's still very much the same. I totally agree with you because, so long as people see it as they attach a kind of functional element to it, in their minds, well, not everybody, but in the plenty of minds, the value is less because that's a table I can have my dinner on or whatever. Why would you pay money, for that? It's going to be used, it's going to, whereas that amazing painting on the wall, is to be looked at and adored and revered in a way.
We are always looking for, the reason, the raison d'être, of the pieces. Why are we showing this piece? Why are we asking, the artist to make this piece? There must be a reason. It cannot just be something aesthetically pleasing. It's not what we do. There must be a very specific story with the piece. It could be the process that is being used, or the rediscovering of this old technique which they have applied in an unusual way. The craftsmanship, for us is very important. In fact, it's probably one of the main values that we appreciate in what we do, because I would say the vast majority of the artists we work with, they make things themselves in their own studio.
Craft is extremely critical. I mean, India is very, very rich in various craft forms, and we have a huge tradition of artisans and craft people working through hands. In fact, one of the leading designer in the country, way back in I think 15 or 20 years back, did an exhibition called Golden Eye, where he invited Sotsas, Mario Bellini, and designers like those to come and interact with Indian craft people to create a collection. But unfortunately, the collection never saw the light of the day because of just went through in some government bureaucratic setup. But there is a dire need for the two boundaries, for the Western design community and the Eastern design community now to meet each other and then explore in different culture what are the craft skill and artisanal skills which are available, and create a collection. And that is something which I'm very, very keen to do in times to come. That brings me to a point, especially you coming from an investment banking, Sam, the role we can play as entrepreneur can really add a huge value to creative economy. And creative economy globally is becoming a fairly large part of any country's GDP. So it's entrepreneur like us who can play a critical role in mobilizing creative economy.
The entrepreneurship comes risk. And as there's so basically, and of course, just talking about FUMI from this point, we the faith and belief in the people that we represent and in our business model is very high, and therefore we believe in taking calculated, cautious risks in terms of providing, because we believe a gallery needs to provide a platform for these talents, and it's it's not just financial, it's a very emotional thing for us, and it's we see it as really long term. So long-term investors, if you want to go, put it in a financial kind of context, and I guess from our from meeting these makers, investing in them, showing them at here the gallery or the fairs, getting them writing, getting them into museums, then that obviously then leads to things being sold, and they, again going back to money and the system being oiled in a way, with the money going all the way back to the maker,
But we do take risks all the time, and we do encourage our artists to think of new. It's also for us to have more fun, I guess, but the risk is always there at the same time.
Various curatorial components have seen a transformation in your journey. What all those different curatorial components you've adapted to, and what have been the different curatorial practices you've adapted, and what do you see coming next?
I mean, I think sometimes it's been brought to us out of our foresight. The whole because it depends on some of our makers would present things which are they say for instance there's this American maker that we represent, Casey McPhercy. He's a wooden maker, and he makes these amazing sculptures, but he ends up with all this sawdust on his floor, which normally in the past got chucked out. And then so we talked to him about it and said, well, given everything happening in the world, why don't you recycle that sawdust and make furniture from it? So that's kind of one example of dealing with the eco side of things.
During the Black Lives Matter movement, we did our own auction, and one of our artists made this really beautiful, touching artwork, Samuel Randall Miller, and then we sold it in auction, and it was a great success. So we are very there, I guess, in terms of we listen to what our artists want to say as well. Also because, for example, this Black Lives Matter piece was proposed to us by the artist who showed it to us once it was made. And then we were obviously very emotional when we saw it, and we thought we have to do something with it. So we did the auction as a result.
It's time that people like us need to get to spread a much more awareness about all these issues, because diversity is critical. Maintaining a right balance of social fabric is critical.
I mean, one of the things that
our world is still going in wars, so what is happening in Ukraine, Ukraine needs to be rebuilt. All that has to have a very strong intervention into our curatorial practices. It's one world now. There's no, given the technology we are in, there's no boundaries, and the boundaries are only in our mind. If I have to ask you what next would you want from the world of creative community, and what next you don't want from the world of creative community?
Oh.
That's a very good question.
Yeah. Well,
We need to think about it for a second.
yeah.
What do we want from the creative community?
I guess collaborations, like we were saying, for sure, it's so important.
And ideas, a lot of what we base the whole model is from ideas. Talking to people, and these kind of conversations we're having like now, and the conversations we have with makers, they then coming up with the whole community and being more open to conversation, and which brings in collaboration, open to more conversation, which then brings ideas and amazing things can come. I think what I'm scared about is, going back to the art world versus the design world. I always say the design world is with the poor cousins of the art world. And, and the art world has now gone down the road of being mega. The bigger the gallery you are, you need to have an outpost in every single major city in the world. To really be global, and I would not like that to happen in our world.
Yeah, it's important to be in touch with what goes on with our artists, and so yeah, definitely this bigger the better kind of policy of many art galleries. It's not what we would like to see in the design world.
As I would say that I think we as creatives are lucky that one have a skill to think lateral and think beyond linear. Therefore, if we can all join hands and create a movement which pays forward, because that's what I think today's humankind needs, because we are so there is a need of a huge disruption in terms of how we think, so that we can all, look forward to unity and collaboration and somehow create a movement which pays forward.
What would you like to happen?
I would like creative community to start thinking lateral in terms of creating a movement which strives for the right balance of social fabric. And also, we strive for a right balance on how we've ill-treated nature today, how we can give back what nature has given us so much for so far.
Yeah. And what would you not like to happen?
I don't want any creative professional across the world to only look inward. I think they need to look outward.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Yeah.